What up, YouTube? Time for another episode of Beefy Boys Breakdown. Episode 119. We're going over UFC Fight Night. Blanchfield versus Andrade. Was going to be Blanchfield Santos, which I was weirdly more stoked on, even though what we got was awesome and Andrade is awesome. But for some reason, the Blanchfield Santos matchup just makes sense to me, and it's all good because we'll probably see that at some point. The next 3 years at the top of flyweight is going to involve some form of Blanchfield and Santos. So we'll get that fight. But Andrade Blanchfield was fucking awesome. Can't say the same thing for the whole main card, but before that, we got these heater ass prelims to get to.
Yeah, I'd say arguably, just like the description says to people at home, the prelims are better than the main card. I mean, that's an arguable statement, of course, always, depending on, if you want to argue magnitude matters and the weight of the fights.
I may even argue that because, I mean, we got the Bueno Silva Landsberg fight, mattered, right?
Yeah, and then St. Preux and Linz was good name value.
And I feel like this Askabov guy was getting a little bit of hype. It wasn't nothing. His debut was you could use the term much anticipated if you want to. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, these prelims were gas. But
and Jamal
first, bro,
Jamal Emmers was a dog, which they wanted him to be a dog.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. That was real interesting, dude. But you know what else was interesting? This little back and forth between DC and John Jones. Next pay-per-view coming up is John Jones versus Cyril Gahn. And a lot of storylines going into that, but one storyline kind of the embers got re-sparked was John Jones and DC. Are they squashing it? Is it kind of facetious, tongue-in-cheek? How did you kind of interpret that little back and forth on Twitter?
Man, so I think that John Jones seems very sincere about it. Seems like he's cool with Daniel Cormier. He doesn't want to have to, have all that beef between him. Seems like he's kind of over it, which is a weird, character change for John Jones. For anyone that's, aware of who he is as a character. He's the bad guy, typically. He's always been the bad guy. So for him to turn the other cheek was already surprising, and then for DC to be surprisingly uncool about it back to him was even more odd. Am I crazy for thinking DC was uncool about it?
My initial responses mirrored yours exactly, both on Jones and DC. But the longer I mull it over and kind of kick the can around in my head on this, I don't know if I believe either of them. What I'm getting at is my initial reaction was there's two things going on right now with Jones. Either one, it's trying to save face, trying to rebuild the image, the comeback. 3 years is a long time. There's a whole lot of UFC fans now that weren't fans when Jones was still fighting. So it's he can kind of reintroduce himself to the world as nice guy heavyweight Jones, this new mythical fighter. Or what could be happening, it could be a sobriety thing, right? Usually people are less scumbaggy as they sober up. And I mean, being in the middle of training camp, you would hope that he's sober at the moment. So maybe this nice guy Jones.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, those two things didn't always align. But at this stage of his career going up, I mean, it's hard to gain 40 pounds doing blow all the time. So maybe, I mean, I don't know. But what I'm getting at is maybe it's a sobriety thing, a 12 steps thing. You have to reconcile your old beefs and shit as part of the program. Or, like I said, it could be a marketing thing, reintroducing himself to new fans. It could be just, like I said, John Jones gets one whiskey, double whiskey in him, and he's right back to saying fuck DC and all that shit. So
see, that's what I want to see. There's
a lot going on there.
That's what I want to see is one of them get a little faded and be let's just say John Jones wins that fight and he's in the club 1 a.m. and he just tweets, "Man, fuck DC, all that was cap anyway." Yeah, just throws him under the bus. I low key love it.
DC, it does ring, it does kind of hit me as just a little bit salty, a little bit bitter. Because we all know DC is the nice guy. We all know also that he doesn't like John Jones. And those two things can coexist, The good guy's allowed to not like the bad guy.
But is the good guy allowed to be a prickly dick whenever the bad guy tries to be good? I don't think that's how that usually is written.
Yeah, I didn't like how passive aggressive it was. Like, if you want to say like "fuck you," we still beef and say it. Like, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
Don't act like you're passive aggressive aunt. That's
Yeah,
like,
he's like,
well, I
first of
don't
all,
need
I don't need
permission.
permission. I never
Yeah,
asked permission to call this fight. I don't care about that. Like, that's not my job. And then it's like, and then he goes as far as to be like, to run the example of like, run the guy's name, something Corsari, I believe is his name. He's like, yeah, let me go talk to Bill Corsari and tell him, oh, John Jones said it's okay, so I can call his fight. Like, that's like literally a quote. DC, like, chill, bro.
he obviously didn't mean it like literally. Yeah, like that's just yeah. The whole thing, honestly, the whole thing was kind of a miss for me on both sides. Like, I don't think either guy really accomplished what they set out to accomplish. In all honesty.
Yeah, it felt like a miss, right, for both guys. Like, it's like, I mean, John Jones, like, you're the heel, be the heel. I love you as the heel. Sell me the heel. I don't give a shit. It's all good. And also, like, I mean, I appreciate the redemption, like, story, path, career, whatever you want to call it. But that ain't John Jones. Let's be real. Like he's fucked up too many times along too long of like a course where like I don't want to even see. I want to see him ride out as the
I mean,
black hat. Like you need that scare. You need that character.
you're not wrong. Also, like, I mean, he is getting older, right? He's like 34. I mean, a lot of guys
Yeah.
act differently at 34 than they do at 24, right? I
Right.
mean,
Like
I think
he's
most
maturing
people,
for sure. He's growing. Like I think
like,
he's trying to be a better man, but also like for
like,
marketability.
is he one double shot away from, yeah, railing lines and crashing cars? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's tough.
Which I want to. I transitioning out of this and into the prelims. I do want to give a quick shout. I watched a Polo G interview the other day with the Nelk boys, and he gave a shout out to Israel Adesanya for why he has like some of his jewelry decisions. He like follows Izzy
Yeah,
style wise, and he was like, "I love watching the UFC and stuff like that." And I was like, "That's tight. Like, it's nice to
no,
know that other people put him on."
Izzy's definitely transcended like MMA fighting as far as like his what he's known for. I mean, his YouTube channel, his fashion, his jewelry, like
That's what
kind
it
of
was
that
jewelry
that
and fashion was what he was talking about. Why he knows him more so than even fighting.
the dance kind of situation, the fashion,
The showmanship.
like the kind of like the weeb as they call it, like the anime type of world. Like he's kind of tapped in big
Yeah,
in that kind
yeah.
of scene. You know what I mean? No, and he's also like not forget like he's on the other side of the world, man. Like if Izzy lived in New York or LA, I mean, he'd be Odell Beckham Jr. or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to get that much pub in New Zealand. You know what I mean? Like
True.
how,
So
how
true,
many
man.
like
Yeah, so true.
TMZ photographers will live in New Zealand? Like
Well, and you know, crazy to even say this. I think about how much pub Leon Edwards doesn't get. Like no
yeah,
respect.
and honestly, it's probably like a blessing, right? Like I mean,
Yeah, the
like
pressure has to
we
be
don't want to
crazy.
see people turn into Conor McGregor, right? And that's coming from a Conor McGregor fan. Like the American media, the Western media, the LA, New York, like that shit brings problems, man. And like I don't want to see that happen to Izzy. You know what I mean? So
Which
I like what he does. I like what Volk does. I mean, a lot of these UFC champs handle fame really well. You could argue because they're not that famous, but I think Izzy, you can't really say that about.
no, I agree. I was gonna say, speaking of McGregor, you heard about how he cut 3 guys out of his team on Ultimate Fighter and then replaced them with fighters from his gym.
And apparently one of them was Chris Moutinho, which is interesting.
No,
Yeah, because that's what's also interesting about this season of
it's
Tough.
a lot of people that have
Um,
been in the
there's
UFC.
vets and rooks. Like that's kind of cool little twist on the situation. And for those watching, waiting, we're going to get to these prelims. We're just having a little fun, hitting the topical notes that were on the MMA fan radar this week. You know, it's kind of fun to talk about some of the other stuff going on outside of the X's and O's in the cage. But yeah, man, no, it is interesting. You know, you
You
can
think
argue a guy
you think any other fighter can get away with that? Like,
swapping out his own fighters. Honestly, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you think if Volk didn't have some guy in Australia that he wanted to put on the show and put over, he probably could have done
I
that.
bet
Or like,
Islam could.
yeah, I mean, essentially any champ, or like hell, even like Brian Ortega, he was on the season with Volk. Like if Ortega had some LA guy that he'd been training with in Torrance, he probably could have got him on the show. I think there's just like when Connor does something, it's going to be making news. You know what I mean? I don't think this
Yeah,
is the first time or the last time, honestly.
true. Which also, speaking of Islam and Volk, after looking at both guys like 5 days after the fight, Volkanovski won that fight. Like, Islam looked fucked up.
It just depends, man.
Maybe he didn't win like the contest, but like the overall fight, like damage, like he definitely hit more damage on Volkanov or Makhachev.
But it's weird though, man, because like certain guys' faces just don't mark up the same. Like it's just like it's
I'm just
not
saying from that
always
one
like
shot,
apples to apples.
you could tell the one shot in the fifth that dropped him was like it was the most like Makhachev was like kind of beat up, and then there's just one spot like right here where it's like holy shit, and it's that one that connected. So it's just crazy the amount of damage one good shot will do.
I mean, Islam was landing like head kicks and shit, and like elbows,
that's more my
like
point.
Any one of those could have cut or
right.
left a well, but they didn't. That's all. Like, that gets to be real dicey.
Volk's pretty iron. Volk's pretty iron.
I'm just gonna wear open baseball jerseys and say dicey today. You know what I'm saying? You know the vibe.
Iron Volkanovski. I'm down to see the rematch. I'm plugging for it. But anyway, let's dive into it. We got some flyweights to kick it off with. We got Juan Camilo Ronderos at plus 260 fighting Clayton Carpenter at minus 315. Just before the fight, I did notice Clayton Carpenter looks the part. Like, he does look the part. 135.
Yeah, or 125. Yeah, he's a big flyweight. Undefeated, making his debut, 6-0, and 6-0 is like I'm so like annoyed with that number because it's like that's the number you hit that you like get a UFC, like you'll get a shot. If you get to 6-0 and you know a guy who knows a guy, we're gonna see you and hear about you. And it's just like it doesn't really tell you anything. I mean, it tells you like you're not ass. Like, but I'm saying it doesn't tell you that you're like amazing. Like I don't know what to do with these 5-0, 6-0 guys.
Now that being said, Nazim Sadikov, who was 7-1, had 100 amateur fights. So like,
that's
there's like that's big weight. Dope. Like I put a bunch of weight with that. Where I was like, oh well, he's not 7-1. He's fucking. He has a lot. It's also
kind of a dick
fights.
Move, though. Imagine you're like taking an MMA fight, making $0, and you're fighting a guy with 95 fights. Like, it's kind of a dick move.
It's so good. Like, he's the amateur champion of the world. Like, literally fought in the bracket. Like, he's the global champ of the world in AMI.
Like, bro, take off the headgear, dog. Like, come on, I'm trying to get some reps in here. Like, I'm trying to, you know what I mean?
Hey, shin guards and headgear. He fought his way up.
He's a shin guard champ of the world for sure.
3 rounds easy.
We'll get back to this. Big money line for a guy making his debut. Clayton Carpenter coming in at minus 315. Ronderos at plus 260. And we'll dive right into it, man. This round, one and the same. This fight lasted less than a round, but for the time it lasted, it was fucking awesome, man. Action-packed banger.
Dude,
both guys
Carpenter's
had success.
jiu-jitsu is crazy nice.
It really is. Yeah, the transitions from position to position, setting things up. Yeah, it was nice. But also, Ronderos had some success at the start of the round, started the fight, man. He got a takedown, was getting some big ground and pound off. But it was dope because, like, Carpenter kind of got this arm bar, like,
triangle arm bar.
That led to the reversal, got on top in full mount, transitioned to the back and choked him out. Like it was just like sequence to sequence to sequence.
He went like whenever he got up to the mount too, he like dropped back to like a leg lock that he like then like caught the shoulder and went to like omoplata to get the back.
It was like some Charlie Olive shit. It was like high level jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, like, and then as he was throwing the hooks in, he just went straight to body triangle. Like didn't even go hooks. I was like, damn.
I bet Ronderos regrets like going for the takedown, even though he got it. Because once he was in the grappling like realm of Carpenter, he was outclassed. You know, he wasn't outclassed in the wrestling, but he was outclassed in the jiu-jitsu, which is interesting because he used his wrestling to take it to Carpenter's world.
It seemed like Carpenter was ahead at every position too. Like every single time that Ronderos would defend, Carpenter would have the right move to continue the position to get where he wanted to be.
And it wasn't even very, like, scrambly. It seemed like the scramble was kind of like 50-50 positions and just thinking on the fly. It's like a fucking, like, guitar solo. You know what I mean? But, like, this was, like, Carpenter was the composer. Like, he was determining. Like, he was setting shit up, getting it from position to position to position. Like, I don't know. It didn't seem very reactionary. It seemed like he was in the driver's seat. You know what I mean? As far as like these positions and these transitions, it was high level. Like I said, you never really know what to know with the 6-0 guy making his debut. But I mean, in flyweight.
I like him a lot. Flyweight needs that depth, and he is definitely one of those guys that will be, if not top 15, I don't know about that, but definitely a top 25 kind of a guy, and that's the
Well,
kind of a guy we need in that division.
like he could be. Well, imagine if he's like the flyweight Paul Craig. Like they don't really have like a grappling specialist in that division. Don't get me wrong; they can all grapple. And Figueredo subs guys. He's also going up. Moreno will sub a guy, but you got guys like Carl France and O'Day Osborne. Like they're not really subbing people for generally speaking. Like I don't know. I think there's room for like a high level grappler to like make some headway in 125, like purely off of matchups. You know, like I said, like Paul Craig was able to do at 205, like a striker heavy division.
Well, that was Askar Askarov until he, retired. He was the grappler of the division.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. So there's like a void there that somebody can fill that role. I mean, I was impressed. We won't get up too over our skis here, but great win. Like I said, it's one thing to win, but to like win that impressively and to like demonstrate skills and to like check boxes. I mean, fantastic debut.
Yeah, no doubt. I really appreciate Clayton Carpenter, man. I look forward to what he's able to do. Now, that being said, I wasn't really looking forward to the next guy to transition into welterweight. That being AJ Fletcher, the Lafayette, Louisiana boy, so I'm sure Dustin Poirier and DC love him, but he's minus 300, big favorite, over Thimba Garimbo, plus 250. First of all, let me just say, anyone named Thimba Garimbo, I'm not betting on, all right? That's just rule number one.
No, apparently he had like a pretty big following. I think he had like 4 million IGs followers and fought all over the world and had like apparently this Garimbo guy, he's like a pretty well known guy. Like out of the guys that weren't signed in the UFC, he was like is like one, which makes sense. He's not like that young. I forget. I can look up how old he is.
But he had a 10-inch reach advantage over Fletcher. And Fletcher was still
a big dog, which is those two things don't usually go hand in hand.
I was surprised by that.
Yeah, definitely. I was surprised as well. Let me see here. Garimbo making his debut at 32. So yeah, pretty old to be debuting. He's been around the block.
I thought that Garimbo, was kind of finding his range for the first maybe 40 seconds. But Fletcher was doing an even better job of avoiding the damage and waiting to kind of, get into the clinch, get the takedown, which he eventually did. And
Garimbo got his own takedown.
Yeah, I was going to say Garimbo got a reversal. I was trying to see if he got a takedown, but he got a reversal into full mount and started landing those big elbows. And then
he was throwing up some subs and stuff. So, I mean, the grappling was pretty competitive. But just from a damage standpoint, Fletcher pulled away in round one, because he was getting those ground and pound elbows off.
Yeah, big elbows.
I mean, Garimbo showed some things. I thought round one was relatively competitive. But I mean, round two, really, round two was dope because Fletcher kind of put it all together. There wasn't a whole lot of stand-up action in this fight to this point, but he lands that standing elbow.
Garimbo got the early takedown again in this round, though, before the elbow. So once again, Fletcher gave up that takedown, but was able to get back up. That's when they got pressed against the cage, and he came with that huge bow over the top that kind of seemed to set up the beginning of the end.
The elbow forced Garimbo to take a kind of a panicky, bad shot, which left his neck out for the guillotine. Fletcher jumped on it, got the gilly, jumped the gilly. And, he got the round two sub. I said, neither one of these guys are really my favorite fighters. Fletcher's whole kind of spiel after the fight was I'm not too small to be a welterweight.
Oh, yeah, I hated his speech. His speech was dog water.
On one hand, I get it. The whole Alex Pereira, Hamzat, 40 pounds, what even is a weight class at that point? There's something to be said about a guy fighting closer to his natural weight, I guess. But it's also Fletcher, you're 1-1, I think. You're kind of irrelevant in the division. So to say I'm an example of how to be a welterweight, it's just I don't know, it missed for me. I don't know. No, don't get me wrong. If he works his way into the top 5, then yeah, pop that shit. I think Colby Covington style, welterweight. Cool, that's awesome. But
he was 0-2 in the UFC, losing to Simmelsberger and Ange Lusa.
Yeah, so exactly. You're 1-2, and you're trying to like kind of high horse about like weight cutting, or I don't know. Is that what how you? It was a weird kind
Well,
of
he was saying also
deal.
that like anyone that thinks that I'm like too small or like that Reach is a thing, like Reach is stupid, don't listen to it. Like you judges might like he went on like a crazy rant where I was like, bro, who hurt you? First of all, and second of all, like you were he was 9-0 when he made it to the UFC and took two hard L's. So like that's just some salt coming out right there.
Yeah, some salt coming out, and also like maybe if you were fighting at lightweight, you wouldn't have taken 2 L's. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even know if you're like proving your own theory right.
Right, like I don't know, bro. Like it's up to you to maybe do a little better. Cause honestly, I'm
No,
not that high on Fletcher still.
not that high on Fletcher. Yeah, exactly. Especially because at welterweight, like welterweight, I mean, there's so many guys to be high on at welterweight, and I'm sorry, he's just not one of them. Same thing for Garimbo. Like pretty unimpressive debut. Like he looked like a guy that you'd see fighting for like Masvidal or you know what I mean, Eagle or like this kind of that caliber of fighter. And there's probably a reason why he wasn't signed to the UFC, and I don't know how much longer he will be. I don't know. Yeah, like, we can also keep it pushing because there's like 90,000 welterweights I love talking about, and neither of these guys are them. Like, sorry about it.
Sorry about it. No, I agree with you. Now the next two guys do have some name value here. We got light heavyweights Felipe Lins minus 215 against OSP Oven St. Preux at plus 185.
Yeah, I got to say, I didn't bet any this week, but I like this one a lot. I thought that was decent value, especially potentially in a parlay, minus 215 for Lins. I mean, we all know St. Prue's washed. I'm like, honestly, like every time I see him on a card, because it's weird. He fights like he's fairly active, but he's just like so irrelevant and like it's like wins one, loses two, that it's just like like every time I see him on a card, I'm like surprised. But he fights like 3, 4 times a year, but I'm always like, oh shit, St. Prue's are still prelimming along here.
Yeah, I don't know why St. Preux is still in the UFC. I'm gonna be just blatantly honest, man.
No, yeah,
Like
I
his
mean, I'm
name
sure the
value is
UFC
not
is
even worth.
ready.
It's not even worth much to me at this point either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they like try to use him to build these prospects, but like, has anybody parlayed it into anything? What did Jamal Hill beat St. Preux?
I
Maybe.
believe so.
So it could be wrong, but I
Like
don't know. They
early
try
in
to
his
use him to
career though,
build
like
the
second
yeah.
fight in his career. So it's like, I mean, I see they're trying to give him that push, and back then that name was probably worth a lot
Yeah, it was
more.
worth more back then, for sure, for sure.
But like, damn man, it's tough now. And now they're not trying to like they're not trying to build Felipe Lins this fight. This is kind of like a like who deserves to be here kind of a fight.
Yeah. I got that right. I'm
Eh,
glad. Jamal Hill back in 2020. I think that was the first time we watched Jamal Hill fight, or one of the first times. But anyway, um, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm surprised they're still trotting him out there. I mean, obviously doing it for the money, and like Felipe Lynn, it's a weird matchup too because like, all right, so usually they at least do the young stud, the Jamal Hill. Maybe you can like build him. I mean, Felipe Lynn's is 37 years old himself.
no, that's
Now,
what I'm
granted,
saying.
he's
This was
finding
like a
success,
loser.
but
This was like a loser leaves kind of a fight to me.
yeah, and there was a big loser. I mean, this fight was not competitive.
Not
I
close at
mean,
all.
49 seconds. Like, I mean, it was literally just pedal to the metal, like bombs, like essentially some shit you'd see in like the back of a Buffalo Wild Wings. Like, it wasn't,
It was just a volcano of shots that like probably
yeah.
7 out of like 50 connected, but like Oven St. Preux threw like two back the whole time, and just those seven hurt.
Yeah, like St. Preux literally did nothing. I mean, I gotta say, it does take stones to kind of like Hamzat versus Kevin Holland strategy. Like, if he didn't get the finish, he probably gasses and loses, right? I mean, so it's
True.
like credit to that, and he put on a show for us. Like, I'm really not trying to be too down on Lentz here. It's just hard to be too up on him, right? And then also, like, I don't know what to do with it because it's like St. Preux looked so bad that it's like,
See, that's also
you,
where I'm
you,
at. Is like I don't like St. Preux. Like I don't really like think he belongs in the UFC. So like Lynn's, it's like, all right, man. Well, you're still gonna be a back end light heavyweight for me. Like you still gotta fight new guys, like new hot up and comers. Probably get Lynn's on like a second fight in the UFC.
like, is Lynn just the new St. Preux? Like, be careful what you wish for. Like, you want to steal St. Preux's shine, but like,
You don't
you
want to
don't
steal
really
his
want his
place.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not a bad point because I mean, yeah, I mean, light heavyweight, not the deepest division, but like Jacoby probably fucks up Lins, and I mean, Murzakanov, I mean, whatever. I mean, maybe that's a fight.
I think
I don't
Minifield
know
probably
though, but
beats him.
that's the weird thing is that I think St. Prue's last win was over Benefield. So if you want to MMA map that, but I know that you really can't. But yeah, I mean, Roundtree fucks up Lynn's most likely. Now you could mainly because I'm a Crute hater. Like you could sell me on maybe Crute Lynn's, just like Lynn's maybe knocks him out just because Crute's there to be hit. But whatever. I don't know. I just because he was trying to frame it like, oh, my time's now. Like, it's time to go on a run. And I mean,
Yeah.
he's not wrong in theory. I just don't see that run taking place. And we sound like we're on some like weird hater shit tonight. These are the hands we were dealt, right? Like, these are the fights we were given to talk
And what's
about.
crazy
Like, I
is that
don't
they're
know.
dope fights and good finishes, but we're just, I mean, it's not much else to be done about it, you know?
Yeah, like part of this show is like, who are we excited about? What happens next? I mean, that's a large part of what we talk about, like, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can go watch, details or listen to, Big John if you want to hear like real ass X's and O's shit. We're here to talk like fallout, divisions, future matchups. That's kind of what we do here on our show. And I'm sorry, St. Prue wins. I don't know how far I'm supposed to run with that. But that being said, let's keep it pushing here to the debut of Hussein Ashkabab, 23-0, making his debut at a minus 150 favorite in the featherweight division. Which it was controversial because on one hand, everybody's like, "Oh, this 23-0 guy, stud Chechen, is coming in." And like I think Felder all night was kind of dunking on it, saying that he had fought 23 cans. Like kind of just like if you read
It was
between
like,
the
difference
lines,
just like who you fought.
yeah, like he was throwing shade. Like not even that subtle. Like he was like, I don't know about these guys that he's fighting.
I wonder if he's
Taking on
trained with
that,
Emmers before, you know, or like has teammates train with him. Like might be
I'm
throwing a little
sure
homie shout
maybe.
out.
Yeah, but fighting Jamal Emmers plus 130 featherweight. I gotta say, I myself liked Ashkabab. Not that I like, know a ton about him, but I mean, 23-0 is pretty fucking impressive. And I mean, I'm not the biggest like Emmers guy, you know what I mean? So I'm like, if a guy is like, if this is a Hamzat or a Ragmanov or even like a Makayev, like if he's one of these Eastern Bloc guys making his debut undefeated, then you shouldn't have a problem beating an Emmers, right? Like, so like in
Yeah.
my head, like I was kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt. Like I've kind of seen this movie before, right? But Emmers, had something else up his sleeve for us.
So Emmers honestly impressed the hell out of me. Like just flat out,
Yeah.
was faster. I thought in all the exchanges, was in and out so well that like, dude, when he would go first, he would then dodge the counter and come back with his own counter to like recounter the counter of Ashkabab. And Ashkabab didn't have bad speed, but he looked slow compared to Emmers most of the time. And
Well,
Emmers'
and
leg
I'm
kicks
glad
were crazy, crazy.
Emmer's striking defense was like jumping off the screen, and it has to be for me to notice it. That's one of my like weakest points. The things I know the least about is like striking, like the nuances of striking defense. Not super like well versed in that topic. I'll admit that, but like so when I notice it, it's good, right? Like it's jumping
Right.
off the screen. It's like I literally have in my and I never note this down. The 119 episodes. I don't know if I've ever written this down. I was like, he's just not getting hit clean. Like the
Yeah, he
numbers
couldn't
were pretty
connect.
even in round one, but like the way he was just the striking defense was on point from Emmers. Also, real quick, let's shout out Emmers signing the dotted line against absolutely anybody
Yeah, killers. Pat
because
Sabatini, Giga Chikadze.
Chikadze, he signed to fight Esvalev and it didn't end up happening, and he also signed to fight Timur Valiev, didn't end up happening.
God damn.
It's so like he's not afraid of anybody. He's a dog. Like he's a real fighter. He's like an old school like line him up. Like I want to test my skills. Like it's like that's what it also kind of affects. Like in my head, I didn't perceive Emmers very high. Knew he had a couple losses. I mean, losing to Giga Chikadze and signing and Pat Sabatini and signing to fight Evloev and having that fight fall through. I mean, hard to really hate on that. Like hard to knock it. The guys, that's impressive.
His non-con schedules is super strong for like a football reference. You know what I mean? Like he's not scheduling any
yeah.
cupcake weeks.
No, no, at all. Seriously, man. And like, yeah, and this was another one. I mean, this fight may not age that well, but like coming into it, 23-0 Chechen, like everybody's high on this guy. Like he's favored over you. Like Emmers is down. Like he's down to scrap, man. You gotta love it. So it sounds like you gave round one to Emmers as well, though.
Yeah, I definitely did, man. I thought that like he just beat Ashkabov to the point in almost every exchange, and like you
I
said,
did think it was the closest round, though. Round one was probably, in my opinion, the hardest round to score.
true, and I think a lot of that has to do with Ashkabov being fresh because as we start to see in the rounds, Ashkabov wears down and Emmers does not. I mean, we can go round by round, but I scored all the rounds for
No,
Emmers, and I think they get further apart after that first round. And they're
1,000%.
just like the first round over and over. Except Ashkabov starts trying to relent to takedown attempts and can't get those either. I mean, those are easily stuffed by Emmers.
Yeah, Emmers' takedown defense was on point.
Emmers, however, would keep
cardio
getting
was like
takedowns.
noticeably bad. Like it's one thing if we're watching any like light heavyweights, second, third round, yeah, they're gonna be some huffing and puffing. Like featherweights, like I'm sorry, I just watched the Volk. Like I mean, there's so many featherweights. Like all the guys we just talked about, Evloev.
They had a good pace. Like it was a good pace for 15 minutes. Well, 13 minutes.
Oh no, I'm just saying I'm not used to watching featherweights like suck wind.
Yeah, that's
Like
what I'm saying.
Ashkabov's cardio was sus. Like that box was not checked. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if the heavyweight comes out and doesn't check the cardio box, all right, we can maybe like kick the can down the road.
Well, especially at 13 minutes, because in heavyweight you're like, well, by 7 or 8 minutes, like this fight's over anyway.
Wait,
we expect decision 15-minute fights where you got to fight your way out.
Like. Red flag. Like I'm like not throwing a single piece of coal in the Ashkabov hype train, not because he lost, because of how he performed. Like you can't gas at featherweight. Like that can't happen. Like
I would just like to note the best guys at featherweight of all time are all insane gas tank guys. If you think about it, like Holloway, Volk, Aldo, they all had crazy gas tanks. Like could beat the hell out of you for rounds.
Even the guys that aren't, like a Billy Q. Like it's hard. I
Ricky
literally
Simone.
am struggling to bantamweight, but point still.
Oh yeah,
same
I'm sorry.
realm.
Yeah.
That same kind of general point. But what I'm getting at, like, can you name a featherweight with a bad gas tank? Like, I'm literally like, I mean, not name Ashkabov.
No, I
like,
really
they
can't.
don't exist.
Like,
it's like a prerequisite.
Yeah, no. Even the ones that are super tall and don't seem like they belong in the division.
Even the guys that are super muscle bound, like Sadiq Yusuf, like. There's literally nobody in the division with bad cardio that I can think of. I mean, yeah, like literally nobody. None of these guys at all. The exact opposite. They are all literally like marathoners. I mean, Josh Emmett, muscle bound. He don't gas. Literally none of these guys gas. Jair Rodriguez fucking throws flying knees all fight and still won't gas. Like none of these guys gas. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's a non-starter. Ashkabov was exposed. I mean, leave it in a comment if you disagree. If there's like other old fights that you know about of like Ashkabov's cardio looking great over 3 rounds or 5 rounds, but that was unimpressive.
I mean, tough UFC debut. Don't get me wrong, because I thought Jamal Emmers had a great performance.
Also, though, if you're that guy, like if you're who they were telling us he was, and like,
oh yeah, if you're the 23-0 legend,
like if you're a Hamzat, if you're a Rakhmonov, if you're a Makayev, you beat Emmers. You do. That sounds like a knock on Emmers.
Especially don't lose a decision. Like if anything, you win the fight until you lose by like a catch submission or like
maybe
a flash
get
KO.
Caught.
Yeah, like that. Like for instance, Islam, his first fight in the UFC, he lost because he got KO'd in the second round, and he was dominating the fight until that happened. So like
exactly, and he definitely didn't gas.
You're right. Yeah, it was like, oh, that's a freak knockout, and like he's dominated everyone since and been more safe and like smarter fighter because of it. We did not see that with Ashkabov here. We actually saw him get dominated in different facets. Now, I will say, he gave up his back and let the hooks get in, and he was able to get out of that so many times. And I don't know if that's a knock
took the
on
words
Emmers
out of my mouth,
or like how explosive Ashkabov actually is, but he wasn't able to do that in the late third round.
Yeah, no, I was about to bring it up. Like I've never seen somebody like escape full mount like as easily as Ashkabov.
Yeah, he just kept exploding and arching and like throwing Emmers off him. I was like, damn, this guy must have like a good amount of explosive force.
Yeah, but also I think that is probably daubered down on Emmers because like
I
that's
agree.
not
I think that's
happening to
more
like
on
an
Emmers.
Ortega or like a or a Josh Emmett or I mean even like an Evlo Ever, Bryce Mitchell, even a Dan
Well,
Ige. That's not happening
for
to.
instance, like
So
when he fought Sabatini, like I wouldn't know how that fight went. You know what I mean? Like Sabatini put
yeah,
work in on Emmers.
exactly, dude. So all three judges saw 30-27 for Emmers. I think this was our first decision, if I'm not mistaken. It
Yes,
was
yeah, it
so
was.
a lot
Only
of finishes
decision
on the
of the
prelims.
prelims.
The prelims were gas, bro. I mean, I like I said, we've had a few. The negative things that we've been saying hasn't necessarily been about the fights themselves, just like the trajectory of certain guys. But yeah, great. I mean, great win for Emmers, and like I said, I mean, I can see Emmers being one of those guys that has like a sneaky good career. Like we're gonna look back on some of the guys that he's beaten and be like, damn, like this guy's like he has some good wins, and even his losses are like good losses.
I agree with you. I think Emmers is gonna be one of those guys that has like a good career in the UFC just because like he's a dog. You know what I mean? Like guys like that
He's a dog.
probably get 10, 12 fights deep, and I kind of know their name by the time they're out the door.
Exactly. I think that's a good way of putting it. I'm gonna grab a beer real quick if you want to introduce this next one.
Yeah, I'm gonna discuss card placement because I had a little bit of a problem with this. Um,
Yeah, I think you should still be able to hear me. I have
oh
my
yeah,
headphones
oh yeah,
still in,
oh yeah,
but yeah, I had a problem with that card placement as well. I mean,
yeah.
this was
So number
debatably one of the best fights on the whole card, main card or otherwise.
right, like I mean, women's bantamweight, number 12 versus number 14. Number 12, Lena Landsberg at plus 380, fighting the biggest favorite on the card, who's number 14, Mayra Bueno Silva at minus 475. Now we do know MBS. I'm gonna call her that, not the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mayra Bueno Silva. Um, MBS known for her elite grappling, right? Striking, we've always thought she's okay on the feet, but really more so like her submission game is what we've always known her for, and like top game being aggressive with jiu-jitsu. Landsberg, on the other hand, vicious elbows, pretty good clinch, kind of boring though, and I think on a tough streak of fights.
Well, and she's 40 years old too. I mean, best days definitely behind her. Shout out Don Lemon. Sorry for laughing at my own joke, but I was just trying to slide that in there. But yeah, your point that you're about to be getting to is that the grappler outstruck the striker. That was kind of the theme of this fight.
Yeah, and I mean Landsberg coming into this fight, man, doesn't have a win since 2019. Just to put it in perspective.
Yep, and Buena Silva was coming on. You know what? 4-1 in her last five with her only L being to Fioro, which Fioro's potential future champ. So I mean that's not a bad loss at all.
No,
Some
yeah, I'm
good
beating
wins
Wu
on there.
Yanan, Egger.
Beat, yeah,
I mean, the draw with De La Rosa is kind of questionable.
it is kind of questionable, but I mean that was a while back, right? Or yeah, I mean, no, she's just super active. It's down on her Tapology, but it's only in 2021.
Yeah, I
Buena
mean,
Silva, another good thing to like about her, fights all the time, fights high level competition. Yeah, no doubt.
activity sells her record also 10-2-1. Lena Landsberg 10-8. I think that's notable.
Ugh.
Or 9-2-1 and
Ooh.
10-7.
Yeah,
Not to give it away
Landsberg.
here.
How the fuck was Landsberg still 12? She's like the Jimmy Crude of this
See,
division.
I
She's
don't
on a
understand that
4L streak.
either. I don't understand that either.
The win over Chason did her a lot of favors, I
But
guess.
since
Chason was ranked pretty
2019,
highly.
like inactivity has kept her position.
Yeah, I mean, she's lost to like literally everyone. Like, I mean, big names though. I mean, tough L's. She's like she's the Anthony Smith. Is that a better like
Maybe
comparison?
worse.
Like, yeah, maybe worse. But yeah, I mean, Buena Silva, like I said, I mean, all that aside, I mean, really impressed me on the feet. The kicks to the body were insane. Like, it was getting to the point where I would like wince when she would kick Landsberg to the body because it was kind of on some like Izzy shit to where like she wasn't just kicking the body, she was kicking the same like square inch of the body. Like the accuracy on those body kicks was like
She was landing
unreal. Like it was
big knees to the body too, and punches.
yeah,
Like a lot of body work the first round.
but like, do you notice like all those kicks were the exact same spot, like the
Yeah.
precision, like the exact. You know how much that had to hurt. Like seriously, just getting hit in the same exact spot over and over with other body work being mixed in. It was impressive. And then she ends round one with some ground and pound elbows. Um, she was getting the trip takedowns. I mean, it was really all Buena Silva, right? This is going to be another one where it sounds like we're dunking all on Landsberg, but like, what do you want us to say? Nice. Like, what the fuck are we supposed to say?
I don't know what there is to say. First round pretty clearly 10-9 Buena Silva. Beats her up. You know what I mean? Doesn't even really
Like,
use.
I debated a 10-8. Like,
yeah.
the debate didn't last long, but it was like,
especially
it was
with
bell
the last
dominance on the feet, on the ground. Like,
I was gonna say with the takedown at the end and the last 1 minute sequence where you start to see her working and you're like, oh well, it looks like she's gonna be pretty successful on the ground here too. And then second round starts, she immediately gets that takedown, doesn't waste any time, and with that much time and for her to work, I mean that's just dangerous. Whenever you saw what she could do in 1 minute, and I think she kind of realized that too near the end of round one, right? So ends up trying to get that rear naked choke and was so close on it for so long. And then Landsberg did a good job to escape and she stood up immediately. And then Buena Silva literally spiraled into a leg lock and ends up getting the tap with the knee bar. It was really saucy.
Yeah,
and I can't believe she didn't get the original finish and then jumped into a finish like that immediately after.
Well, it was dope because, I mean, at that point, she was literally doing whatever she wanted to do, right? She was outstriking the striker. She was getting takedowns literally every attempt, like with not even wasting a lot of energy to do so. And then we all knew she was the better grappler as far as pure jiu-jitsu goes. So, yeah, I mean, she was pretty much picking and choosing. Like, she literally, like, you kind of saw her like, I think I'm going to go for this knee bar.
Yeah.
Go for it and get it.
Like kind of like crouched up and like saw the leg and was like, I'm going to reap the leg and just roll for it. Like, fuck it. And like ripped it. Only had like 30 seconds left in the round.
Yeah, showed the sense of urgency. And I mean, that getting the knee bar finish goes a lot more to climbing the rankings than like edging out a decision or something, or getting a bunch of control time. So gotta love that. I mean, the call out in her like broken English was like hella like entertaining. Like I didn't understand every word, but like the passion was there. Like I had a smile on my face the whole time. It was fucking awesome.
The differential between calling out Raquel Pennington and Jessica Pena though is
Juliana Pena.
Juliana Pena, yeah, I'm sorry, I knew I fucked up her name. Juliana Pena is like a big difference though. She was calling for Raquel Pennington, calling her a sleepy fighter and a boring fighter, and I agree with those takes, man.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see that fight because
I was like, I like this spice. Let's go. I'm here for this. Good sell.
And like, I don't really like having Raquel Pennington as number 2 in women's bantamweight. It kind of just doesn't like. Sometimes we'll say like this just doesn't seem right. Like we've talked about it in men's lightweight and like some of these like top heavy divisions where it's just like, man, there's so much young talent and these kind of names are just kind of like welterweight, the Colby Covington of the world, like sitting on their spot. I mean, I'm gonna look up Raquel Pennington real quick. Just
well,
I know she's been winning.
Buena Silva went up 10 pounds from flyweight, so like she's out here.
And it doesn't look too small or too weak or any of that.
No, and that's what I was going to say. Like, she's out here ready to, like, I think take out some of these old bantamweights that have been putting on a boring show.
So, yeah, like, that's the thing. Yeah, Pennington has 5 straight wins, which is insane. I mean, the resume, you can't knock it. Over good names, over good fighters. It's just the boring fight style, right? Like, nobody's chomping at the bit to watch a Raquel Pennington fight. Like, and I can't say I'm chomping at the bit to watch Mayra Buena Silva, but like when I saw
more
Mayra
so than
Buena
Pennington, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, totally. My ears perked up a little bit. I was like, oh shit, she's on the prelims. Like, what a treat! Like, I'm excited to watch what happens here. Like,
and not even in the featured prelim. Like, kind of fucked up, especially considering who's in the featured prelim, which I think good enough transition, right? Unless you want to talk about who you want Buena Silva to fight next.
Oh, performance of the night.
She did get performance of the night. I do think we
and
probably
I'm cool
should
with
talk
the Pennington.
About. Yeah, I mean, I got the rankings.
And that's a huge jump.
That's what I was going to say. Is if you wanted something that's a little closer, I want to see what we got here. I mean, who's Yana? Oh shit, they changed her name. Yana Santos instead of Yana Kunitskaya because she married Thiago Santos.
Oh yeah, that's right.
All
right, had a kid by.
Yeah. So that surprised the hell out of me. I didn't know what it was. Now I think that would have been a good fight to call for. Someone coming back so you get the ring rust on him. Because I think she'll be back in maybe 4 months at this point.
Well, she did also mention Miesha Tate's name, but she was like, I don't know if she's even like retired or not, which is honestly a fair point. Like that's why these rankings are just kind of annoying. Like Misha Tate's sitting there at 10, but like, is she? And then,
I wouldn't
you
mind the
got
Macy Chiasson fight because can Chiasson even make that weight?
exactly, but see, that's why I don't want that fight because like
Now
it
Kianzad
may
I
not
like.
even go
Kianzad
down.
I like. I don't think she.
Keonzad, I do like.
I don't think she's number 7 though. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy. I think there should be.
These, that's why I don't hate her skipping the line and going all the way up to a Raquel Pennington, who has the on paper resume, but nobody really feels like is an actual threat to the belt. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't hate it for that reason. Holly Holmes at what 42 years old, and I think taking boxing matches or some shit. Like, I mean, you got the Vietas of the world, and Irene Aldana. I don't know if she has a fight booked right now. I mean, yeah, you got the Kunitskaya Santoses of the world, the Kianzads of the world, but there's a whole lot of like fluff in these rankings between the Tates and the Chason's really a 45er, and you got Holly Holm there. Nobody really knows. I mean, Pena's refusing on some Colby Covington shit. I mean, and then you got Rocky Pennington sitting there. It's like that's like it's not skipping as many rungs as like it appears at an initial glance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just think here's my take on it. Right, is like I'm looking at the rankings just in general, and they're pretty weak in general. Right, like 135 is a weak division right now. I think. And you can call me crazy for saying that if you want, but number 11.
No, I it's not deep. It's not deep. You can argue it's like talent rich and a little top heavy. It has the biggest name value, but it's not deep at all.
Right. So like you look at Julia Avila, number 11. I mean, she's from OKC. I should be able to rep her. Like I should be proud of that. However, I'm just going to say that if Casey O'Neill, number 11 at 125, came up and just fought her just straight up, Casey O'Neill would probably beat the shit out of her.
I know that's what's tough. I think like a lot of these flyweights are beating a lot of these bantamweights, which is why Buena Silva is really smart for coming up weight class.
And that's my point in that comparison is like, and that's why I guess ultimately I'm agreeing with you just a long way that like, yeah, Buena Silva was ranked higher at 125 obviously than she is now, but like the path
that's
to
another part of the argument.
Yeah, the path to 135's belt is so much easier for her because I think the skill level at 125 is so much higher per ranking.
And just older, right?
Yeah, 135's got to have some switch up, man. It's got to have some young girls come up, man.
It might be Buena Silva, right? Like she may be the Blanchfield Fioro of this division.
Or that might be where we start seeing like the youthful, like some female fighters that are young right now, like 20, 22, stuff like that are at 125. Maybe they do end up at 30 going to 135 and we get some life that way.
Yeah, seriously, man. We'll keep it pushing because we got the fight of the night up next, man. That doesn't give anything away besides the fact that it was fucking awesome.
Oh, we got to talk about this fight too, especially scorecards because I have the judges.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. And also like
and rules. I have a rules question. This is a big fight.
That was awesome. And also like it was even more awesome because I got to admit I wasn't like excited for it. Like
didn't expect it at all. I kind of slept on it. Was like, why is this the featured prelim?
The featured prelim, exactly, man. Let's talk about it. So we got Nazim Sadikov making his debut as a minus 200 favorite over Evan Elder, plus 170. And Elder is one of those guys. I think he was 0-1, but lost to a dog, if I'm not.
And was up a weight class on short notice.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, the fight taking place in the lightweight division, and round one was an absolute banger. My bad, I'm kind of looking up Evan Elder.
Oh, he lost Preston Parsons.
Preston Parsons. So I mean,
in his debut, not the best performance, but like I said, short notice, up a weight class. 15 pounds too, not even 10, because lightweight to welterweight, so that is a bigger jump.
True. Yes, sir.
Now that being said, Sadikov has 100 AMI fights, which we discussed earlier. I mean, that's a pretty big deal experience-wise, timing-wise. Now, that being said, I thought this fight...
it looked like it paid off, right? Like, it looked like it wasn't all for naught. Like, he was very good.
This fight was a war. I mean, both guys wobbled each other. Neither guy could really get each other to drop. But...
I liked Evan Elder's body work in round one, man.
I did, too. That's what I was going to say, the body work. And the knockdown was like... it was a knockdown. Flash, right, exactly.
But still happened, and still was an impactful moment of the round. Like I said, in the sustained body work for Elder. But, I mean, good round for Sadikov. I mean, definitely got his licks in. Definitely like won his exchanges, won his positions. But yeah, we both saw round one for Elder. That's interesting.
And all the judges saw round one for Elder. I thought also interesting because I
Okay,
thought it was a close round.
me too. I thought it was a very close round for sure. Now round two, another banger. And really, Elder did almost everything he did in round one, except for Sadikov just finally started just getting his own damage off. The
Yeah,
damage,
and got his own
yeah.
takedown at the end of the round. Elder got his takedown at the start. Sajikov got his takedown at the end. I thought the damage was really close, especially when I took into consideration too the cut on Sadikov was from a clash of heads. So I actually didn't consider that in my damage score because that was
Me
made
too.
apparent
Me
to
too.
me as a person at home before the round ended. So like I took that into my scoring.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And also, yeah, the grappling was almost like a wash. Like it was like it like nixed each other out, right?
Right.
And like you said, the damage also pretty close to a watch. It's just so like this is going to be kind of like dumbing it down, but sometimes you have to dumb it down a little bit to really kind of like get to the nuts and bolts of who won a round. Like Sadikov's damage was to Elder's head, and Elder's damage was mainly to Sadikov's body.
I like
All
the
things
head
being
damage.
equal, the head damage is a little more impactful. No, Elder was doing great body work, so I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my neck. I love the body work, but
I
it's just
thought really
hard whenever
close
you're getting
round.
hit in
Really
the
close
face.
round. I just thought taking away the cut from Sadikov's head because it was a clash of heads, I thought he actually won the damage battle.
For sure, bro.
Now,
How'd the
hey,
judges see it?
that being said, I was gonna say every judge, Evan Elder,
Every judge.
every judge
That's
had him up
interesting.
20-18, super impactful going into this third round.
That's just weird to me because everything we just laid out. I don't want to say it all again, repeat myself, but seriously, we just laid out a pretty like, and we haven't talked about this before. We watched it 1,000 miles apart, and we both saw it that way. And everyone disagrees with this. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, not a fight we discussed until this moment either. Like never said a word about this fight to each other.
Yes, yes, and then kind of an anticlimactic end to this one. 38 seconds into round three, the fight stopped. Doctor's stoppage cut to the eye. It was a punch, or was this the clash of heads that you were talking about earlier? Or was
See,
this a new cut? I
no,
honestly kind of
no,
forget.
they ruled this cut due to like a knee elbow punch. Like he landed 3 strikes in the third round, and they said that one of those 3 in like a transitioning period, like landed and opened the cut. I think most of that damage and swelling was there from the clash of heads.
Yeah, because I was seeing both sides of it on Twitter. Even Felder was kind of like kicking the can around, trying to really like kind of just talk it out loud, walk through it. I didn't really know how I felt about it. It's one of those things that you think maybe like it was started by the clash of heads and like there was a punch landed, but like it just kind of like worsened the thing that was already there from the clash of heads as opposed to
That's how I feel. Is like the majority of the
that's how you saw
damage
it.
that opened the cut was from like something that was like a neutral move or like wasn't like an intentional strike. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it did have shades of kind of like Masvidal, Nate Diaz, like Elder, like you said, the judges had him up 2 rounds. I had it tied up, but I mean, it wasn't like he was in a position to win the fight. That's one thing that kind of sucks about it. So Sadikov officially gets the win and a knockout win at that.
See, I'm
Elder gets the
surprised. That's what I wanted to debate is does he deserve a win here being down 2-0 in the scorecards and it being stopped by a doctor? I think that should be a no contest. Because you're losing the fight, and that strike is arguably not, I mean, it's opened by a single strike, but the damage leading to it isn't caused by the strike
You
necessarily.
know what? My knee jerk reaction was to like disagree with you, and then I like went to like form my argument as to why, and I like couldn't. Like,
Yeah, because it's like, I mean,
yeah, like
on whose card was
I
he going to
mean
win that fight?
that being said, I had the fight tied up.
I did too,
That's
so,
why
but
it's
still, that's a
hard for me to
draw.
like yes, but you can't really do a draw, or could you?
I know
Wouldn't have
contest is
been a
what I'd
draw
rule
because
it.
I know that's what I'm saying. I end up agreeing with you, but like there's just like a few little like qualms, if you will, I have with because like I said, the whole premise of Elder being up 2 rounds, I kind of don't like because I didn't have him up 2 rounds, so it's like tough for me to like have that be the foundation of an argument. You know what I'm saying? But it was like, well, like we can only work with what we're given, and that's what we were given, right? So like that's the facts
Right.
of the case here.
Like if you're Evan Elder,
I,
like think about his side of the case. Like why does he deserve that L?
Now I think the 50 grand, especially to a young fighter
That's
that's
gonna
had
help.
some L's, like it's gonna help. His bank account's definitely not fat. So
And that fight was a
happy for
banger.
him.
Was a banger.
Won a lot of fans, right? Like I could see Elder being like a Drew Dober-ish guy who like puts on fan-friendly fights and can take a lot of damage and like
Has a
I
good
don't know.
pace when he fights.
Yeah, man, I could see him being like I said, Drew Dober-ish, Drew Dober light. Like
Drew
I'm not
Dober
saying
light.
you know what I mean? I don't know. I just got that kind of vibe. I don't know. Like even like the marketability, like I don't know. And then Sadikov, good on him. Gets the win in his debut. I just, I don't know. I mean, he looked good. Did a lot of things well. He got some takedowns. He landed some shots. I don't know. It's just like fallout wise, I don't really know how to feel. Like I said, anticlimactic, right?
Oh yeah.
I
Oh yeah. Super
I
anticlimactic.
do feel bad for Elder, but I'm also super glad he got the fight of the night bonus, so like that helped.
Well,
And like
and good
saw
for him that he put on a good show in that loss because if he had two L's and they were both bad showings, we wouldn't be asking him back. I bet the UFC will ask him back on a 2-fight contract.
exactly. That's another reason why it's hard for me to feel too bad for him. Like I feel like he did a lot for himself last night for his
Yeah.
career as far as winning fans over. There's no way Dana didn't enjoy that fight, or you know what I mean. That's not the kind of guy that like Dana likes having signed, right? Like he checked boxes still, even in the loss. Um, so that is what it is. A little kind of a weird way to end the prelim segment, but I mean it was fire prelims. I will stand by the statement that like as a whole, prelims were better than the main card. Now main event gas, top notch, elite, world class. So if you're like if you're fine with your main card being top heavy, then like like you can make that argument. Like depth wise and like pillar to post, like having to spend hours of my life watching it. I enjoyed the prelims more,
Oh
like just
yeah.
from like a fun watchability perspective, way to spend a couple hours.
Main card was like low key, kind of tough to watch. Hate to say that, but like the William Knight fight, for instance, and we'll get to it here coming up in this next episode. But like, there were some fights that were not enjoyable.
It was the three middle fight. The Jim Miller fight was awesome. Main event was awesome. The three middle fights were duds, which I honestly kind of probably could have told you that. Like I don't know, like it's card placement. Who decided to put Parisian and Pogues as the featured
Yeah, that
featured
was
match?
tough. That was tough.
Jordan Wright getting any kind of respect on his name at all is just like, what are we doing here?
And like Laura Senko threw him a lot of respect too. I mean, let's save it.
They
for
always
the
do. I don't understand it. I don't understand why everyone doesn't hate Jordan Wright. Like I don't get it.
Let's save it for the main card. We can go ahead and wrap up these prelims.
We'll shit on Jordan Wright on the next episode.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be right here to do it coming up in probably 5 minutes or less, everybody.
Like and subscribe. Leave us a comment if you disagree with any of our steamy takes.
Yeah, let us know about these hot takes.